Hi, everybody. Welcome to our latest episode of Taste of Shabbos. This is the Kugel edition. But what's also special about this edition is that we are going to focus on looking back a little bit at the holidays that we just had. Now, everybody experienced the holidays and it was a little bit different than what we expected it to be. Obviously, things just shifted and changed. I know that's always been spoken about, COVID, Corona, whatever you want to call it. But we're going to hear tonight from different women that had a different type of holiday, just like you and me. But they took it one notch higher. Instead of looking at this isolation, not being able to be with family, they went one step further and they raised the bar and they use this time period to make it even more special. And what a way to inspire us, to get us back into the routine, because sometimes, you know what happens? Inspiration, and this is really important to remember this, inspiration is like a lightning bolt. What happens? You get struck by that lightning and boom, it's done. But really, we want to try to get that inspiration to continue to get us moving to do something else. And you're going to be amazed with some of the women that you hear. You're going to be amazed with our cook. You're going to be amazed with our recipes. And anytime you want to give a little shout out in the chat, I'm all ears to hear who's here. A lot of times we have from all different states, sometimes different countries. It's really exciting to say hello to all the different people, the participants that are here. So without further ado, I want to call on our first inspirational speaker. That would be Amalia. Could we screenshot Amalia? Hi, Amalia. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Could you tell everybody, where are you from?
So I'm from California, in between Santa Barbara and Los Angeles, a little town called Camarillo.
Ooh, cool. Santa Barbara is really pretty. I've been there. Really, really nice. Did you grow up in California?
I didn't. I'm not from Brooklyn, but my family is from Brooklyn, so I kind of feel like that's in my blood, but mostly California.
Okay, mostly California. Great. So can you tell us, what would you like to share with us this evening?
So like you were saying, the holy days, with Corona, we try to do something different. And we went to a Chabad house in Oxnard, so we're by the shoreline, to be with friends and to be inspired. And I just had a quick story that ends up with my parents being in the sukkah. So my background is, I'm not sure if my father's aware of this, but he had a very traumatic story growing up as a little boy. He's probably about 8 years old, that really influenced my family until we started becoming more observant and learning and growing. And what happened was, he was on his way to school, Hebrew school, after public school in Brooklyn. And there was some sort of, let's say, candy store. You could pull a little string and he won a prize. What was the prize? A little piggy bank. So he goes to his Hebrew school, puts it on the desk, and the rabbi sees this, gives him a potch, and he falls over on his chair. And this is a little 8-year-old boy. So I don't think my father's so aware how it probably affected him deeply and my family. We were raised with very little Judaism. And thank God, because of the outreach of different programs like Chabad and Aish, my children have gone to Jewish school, and my father and my mother wound up in this sukkah. We invited them. Thank God they came. So they were, near the beautiful shores of Oxnard. They got to be in a beautiful sukkah. I don't think my parents had ever shaken a lulav and esrog. So it was just really beautiful to see from how far my parents have come, really not being observant, seeing his grandchildren learning more and more, and then winding up in the sukkah.
Wow. You know what I love about that story, Amalia, the best, is that there was this negative experience, this negative feel that, it happens as a young boy, but you were able to take a step away and then transfer that and transition it, and now give actually your father a positive outlook and a positive view on Judaism. And that's unbelievable. That's inspirational, because sometimes people are parav. You know what I mean? People are just like neutral and then they're inspired. But to come from having that, maybe this little negativity a little bit, but able to rise above it. Like when you're the underdog and you rise above that, that's just awesome. And I think that's so important for everybody, all the listeners, to hear that it doesn't matter where you're at, whatever stage, we could always rise above. And that's really what we're talking about. We're rising above COVID tonight. And we're talking about how we all rose above our holiday experiences in COVID. So without further ado, we're going to call on our cook for the evening, our featured cook. She is going to be featuring 2 different types of kugels. She's going to give us some history to her kugels. She's going to give us some little tidbits, little tricks for the kugels, how to handle kugel with social distancing, with COVID, so on and so forth. Without further ado, I'd love to call on Gabriella. Gabriella, where are you? Let's unmute Gabriella. Hi, Gabriella.
Hi.
First of all, I'd love, Gabriella, before you start, we have the actual recipes to put up. We do. We have those recipes. See, we're all about kugels. Happens to be, we're going to be doing the Lakshan kugel. Okay, Lakshan kugel is another word for noodle. For those of you that don't know, Gabriella is going to be talking about 2 different types of noodle kugels. We wanted to change it up. Always people are talking about potato, 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 but we're going to do a little noodle, noodle, noodle. So Gabriella, please tell us, where are you from, Gabriella?
I'm in Rockland County. Hi to everybody from Rockland County. So, originally from Philadelphia.
Oh, originally from Philly. Okay. And what do you do that you're like featured? What do you do for a living, Gabriella?
In healthcare, we're starting a new healthcare system actually for people after the COVID diagnosis.
More COVID inspiration. Here we go. Very nice. Thank you. So let's see. What are you going to do for us? What do you want to tell us?
So we're doing Lakshan kugel. And I did 2 different types, right? A simple, and then I recreated my great grandmother. So the simple is with the fine noodles. Okay, so I put them into boil because you want to get it hot when you're going to melt the margarine. 1 sec. You put them in just for 4 minutes. They're really quick. So you stir it while you're doing it. And then while it's still hot, you want to melt your margarine. So I pre-cut margarine here at 6 tablespoons, but I wanted to show you that we do it while it's hot because that's going to melt the margarine right into.
Right, much quicker.
You see? Like it melts it right in. So like you get the creamy, even though there's no dairy. Okay, so that's mixing in. And then I preset some eggs already. I do the eggs in these little glasses because we check for blood spots. So I put it into this and then I raise it up to the light, I check, and then I have the eggs here. And then you want to beat your eggs. This is so much fun.
It is, and you're so good at it.
Totally not. This is like, I've never done this. Okay, 1/2 cup of sugar. I went light on the sugar. I'll tell you, my grandmother probably tripled that. And then you beat it in like as if you're making a cake.
Okay.
Right? You're going to beat it in. And then we're mixing. I don't know if you can see, like I'm trying to mix it. I want it to be cooled off. Because if you put the eggs in while the noodles are hot, your eggs are going to cook.
It cooks the eggs. I've had that.
Right.
Like,
it cooks the eggs. So you just like keep mixing it and cool it off. I'm going to add some of the other ingredients while we're waiting for it to cool a little. Okay. So you have.
How about, you want to tell us a little bit about Kugels, Gabriella?
Sure. So, you know, it's right. We've all had, many of us have had Kugels forever. And so why is it a Shabbos food? And just like anything in Judaism, right, both culturally, I'm just going to estimate the.
Go ahead.
The Maharal, who was a Talmudical rabbi hundreds of years ago, said that Kugel represented, an earlier version of Kugel represented manna or man, which is what Hashem, God gave us when we were wandering in the desert. So here's why I love this.
Okay, let me.
So we're wandering in the desert, and each day, how did people like subside? How did they eat? Every day, this amazing food came down from the heavens, and you could only take your 1 portion. And if you took more, it spoiled. Right. So you took your 1 portion, but then Erev Shabbos, the day before Shabbos, you could take for Shabbos. And that was it. And if you took more, it would spoil, and you would have enough for Shabbos. Mm. And the Rebbeim said that Kugel represented the man that we got when we were in the desert. So fast forward to COVID and everything that we're going through. You know, there's a lot of anxiety. It's hard for people going through something so long without knowing what's going to be the next day. And the idea, if you live with man every day, is that Hashem gives us exactly what we need each day. And if we try to grab more because we think we need more, it's going to spoil our lives.
Right.
But if we accept that he's given us exactly what we need, even if we don't understand, if we think it's not enough, if we accept that it's exactly what we need, then we're living in a level of like emunah, of faith, that carries us through really difficult times, like when we were in the desert and had no home.
Yeah.
So
for sure, COVID gave us that little kick in the behind for that one.
Right?
Okay, Gabriella, there's somebody that asked a question, and I want to ask you that question, and then I think we're going to pause for you a little bit while you do that, and we're going to go to another inspiration. Somebody wanted to know, is there a way to transition this recipe into a salt and pepper type of Lakshan Kugel?
Yes. So thank you for that question. The reason I started with this is that this gives you the base for any kind of noodle kugel. So we're going to make a sweet fruit kugel during the next episode, but all you would do for a salt and pepper is use less eggs. I used 5 eggs for this. I would use 4 for salt and pepper. Remove the sugar and literally add salt and pepper.
Okay.
And that's it. And then you have a salt and pepper kugel. And if you switch it, as we're doing later with dried fruit, you can keep adding or deleting to your noodle kugel to get whatever it is that you want. You can also add toppings. You can freeze them as individual items, which I'll show you.
Gabriella, don't give it away. Don't give it away.
Okay, go, bye. See you soon.
Rhonda waiting for us. Rhonda. Rhonda. Hi, Rhonda. Wait.
Hello.
There you go, Rhonda. There you are.
Here I am. Hello.
Where are you from, Rhonda?
I'm from Rockland.
Yes, because
I'm
this is
from
Rockland
Suffolk,
show.
yes. It's the Rockland show. And I could tell you a little story about what I've been doing since COVID and keeping inspired after I went on the December 2016 trip, which was life-changing for me and very spiritually and for my family. And so during COVID, I've been trying to keep that going. So we have, with the Rockland ladies, we have pre-Shabbat every week, Zoom meetings, and we talk about the Parsha for the week and the holidays and just catch up with each other in all these difficult times. So that's been really nice to keep up through all of it. And we've also been joining together and giving to different people in our area, different organizations that are helping and that are in need during COVID. So we're trying to give back to our community. And for the holidays, I was really able to celebrate in a great way. I did have 2 traditional meals, one outside with my whole family, socially distanced, and then one with a couple of friends and family, and it was fantastic. And then we were able to go to the Chabad in Suffolk under a beautiful tent and actually pray and, hear the Torah being read and hearing the shofar and going to a tashlich service. So we tried to make it, as good as it usually is every year and just keep that inspiration going. And it was fantastic.
It really looks like you got it all in. My gosh, you covered
it all in, even the sukkah at the end. So, we had the mitzvah of eating in a sukkah, which I always love. And I wanted to go to more, but that was a little difficult.
That's
but
okay.
we enjoyed it.
Got it in. That is amazing, Rhonda. You're doing great stuff. Thank you so much for organizing all the women together. You're keeping their spirits up. That's what all the ladies in Rockland told me, that you're really the backbone. They said, Rhonda's excellent. You got to have her on the show. She's the backbone, keeping us together during COVID. So it's not just, guys, you understand what I'm saying?
Trying to keep it going. It doesn't take much and we can all get together.
But you see what I'm saying, everybody? It's not that an experience that Rhonda had that was inspirational. It's that Rhonda herself is inspirational. That's what's important. She made sure that the inspiration was going for everybody else. Constantly.
But the group is also really inspirational, and that's what keeps you going,
Thank you. Great job. Great job, Rhonda.
Thank you.
Yeah, everybody's saying getting to Rhonda in the chat. Okay, we're going to go back. Thank you, Rhonda. We're going to go back to Gabriella. Gabriella, I'm back with you. Before you go on to the next Kugel, Okay, before you go on to the next kugel, just there was a question that some people had. They're not big fans of margarine. They wanted to know, instead of using margarine, may they possibly be using oil?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and in which case, if you use the oil, you don't have to let it melt. I would use a non-sharp oil, like a canola oil. Some people use grapeseed oil. I don't love it, but you just measure it out. So I gave the measurements, like if it says half a cup of margarine, just use half a cup of oil.
Okay, great. So now we're going to go on, I think, to you ready to show us a little bit, talk about that other recipe that you have? And
My great grandmother, amazing. My daughter and her daughter are watching this in Minnesota right now. She's named after my great grandmother. So she used to come every week with 2 Kegels, not to be confused with a Kugel, in a glass pan wrapped in towels, because that's how she wanted us to do it. She brought one, just like what I made, and then she brought a sweet Kegel, which had dried fruit.
What's the difference between a Kegel and a Kugel?
Right. Okay. Well, if you were in my house, it depended on if you wanted to eat based on who made it. My grandmother on my father's side made Kugel, and my great grandmother on my mother's side made Kegel. It was just from where they were from. So my great grandmother was from Kiev, and my grandmother on the other side was from elsewhere. So same thing. But we had to sit at the same table depending on what we wanted to pass and pronounce it correctly. So she made it with dried fruit, the second one. So I worked to recreate it.
We want to put the recipe up. Let's show that recipe. Okay. And also, I think people are going to want the recipe, Lisa. I think in the past, we've posted a link for the recipes in the chat, or you've had it on Project Inspire's website, if I'm not mistaken. I could be mistaken. If I am, I'm sorry.
But I'm gonna post it on the chat as soon as I finish sharing my screen, and then if anybody doesn't get it from here, they can email Project Inspire, and I can give it to them through email.
Thank you. Okay, you heard that.
At the end, uncover it after the hour and bake it for 20 more minutes.
Okay. Okay, so this is our second kugel coming up right now.
Ready?
Okay.
So remember, I was recreating it for my great grandmother. I took the dried fruit ahead of time and I diced it up and I put it in water because that plumps it up. So you want to do that anytime that you're using. So I did apricots, raisins, and dates, and I plumped them up ahead of time so that once we use them, they would be soft. I did and then you want to put a lemon. When you dice up the apple to prepare it, put a juice of 1 lemon. That keeps your apples from turning brown. So, so then I have the eggs and sugar prepared the same way as we did before. And then the difference is on this one, I'm using medium. Some people like doing Kugels with the really thick broad noodles. I think they get too crusty, but you can use any you want. I just thought that for the fruit, this worked better. And
wait, just a second.
and then you mix it all up the same.
I want to make sure everyone understood. For this recipe, she's using a little bit of a broader noodle. The first one was the thin noodle. Okay, so this one it says medium.
Was the first one?
It's fine versus medium. Okay, excellent. Thank you.
So, and then the broader the noodles you get, kind of the crunchier consistency you get. And then depending on the pan, should I talk about the pans now?
Well, we're gonna wait.
You want me to talk about the pans?
Huh? You're gonna come back and tell us.
Okay, that was a teaser. So you're mixing everything up the same. I mean, Kugel is really easy. But it's really easy. You don't have to be a cook.
How were you raised? Like, you are so a maven on the Kugels when you were being raised at home. Like, how was it like in your home?
Religiously?
Yeah.
So, Judaism was really important to my family. We did not keep Shabbos or kosher. In fact, I never met anyone before I went to college that kept Shabbos or kosher. So we had these traditions that, a lot of people are tied to their Judaism by the history in the family. We had the foods. We did something for the holidays. It was different than what I do today and what I do with my children. But it instilled for me an importance that Judaism was important and that it mattered. So when I was in college, I'll tell you the big difference for me was just Emes Sinai, the truth of what happened at Sinai, that we were given the Torah and that this was the largest historical recorded event ever. And for me, tying that in with the love of Judaism that I was given as I was raised gave me a foundation for something.
Wow.
So, and then I've been able to raise all my kids, you know,
Right. The
they've
power
kept Shabbos.
of food. The power of food.
Right? It was
Yes.
actually in the kosher kitchen at SUNY
Kosher
Binghamton.
kitchen. That's why we do
So
it.
it was.
Ladies, listen
That's where we
up.
got together.
You don't have to
That's
do
where
everything,
I
but
was
at least make
encouraged.
some Jewish food. Okay, so what are you up to? Putting all the ingredients in?
So yeah, I got all the ingredients in and my noodles are still cooking.
Okay, so great. And you put the noodles in last now for this one?
You can, you want to put the margarine or the oil again in with the noodles and then mix everything up.
Okay.
And then you spoon it into a prepared pan.
Excellent. So you know
So,
what? We're going to come
I'm not
back,
gonna talk about.
Gabriella. We're going to come back because we're going to give some pointers in reference to COVID. You're going to show us the finished product. We're very excited. And we're going to turn to our next inspirational speaker.
Thank you.
That's Margie. Margie. Now, Margie and I were together, not this past summer, but the summer before. We went on a trip together. It was
Yes, we did.
amazing. Was it not, Margie?
It was amazing. It was life-changing. It was beautiful. And in light of what's going on now, I am so incredibly thankful that I did it when I did it. Because there was a time several years earlier that I was asked if I could go on that trip and I wasn't able to at that time. And then when it came up in the summer of 2019, I said, I need to do this now. And I cannot tell you how many times I think of how fortunate I am that I went with you and we had some great talks at, midnight walking around in Jerusalem. And it was incredible. And I think our group, our Bergen moms, we're still very close over a year later. So It's a wonderful thing.
Thank you for joining, Margie. I know you mentioned Bergen. Tell everybody exactly where you're from.
Yeah, I live in Westwood, New Jersey, which is near Paramus. I saw some people are from Long Island. I'm from Long Island, and I did go to SUNY Binghamton, just saying.
Yay!
Yay! I graduated in 1984. 1988, wait, 1984 was high school. 1988, I graduated from Binghamton.
Very cute.
Same year? Are you in my yearbook?
I was there in 87.
Oh my goodness. So a year. That's amazing. I know, small world, right?
Yes.
But
I
remember the kosher kitchen there too. So I remember that. And I've actually, when I was at Binghamton, I went to some Shabbat dinners there too. So
very nice. Very nice.
wonderful school.
Might have been there.
But I know you. I have two daughters, and I know you want me to share about certain things that have impacted me. So it's interesting. Around the holidays, things were different. Usually I spend them with cousins, and we reached out to one another saying how sad we were that we weren't going to be able to be together.
Right.
And it was interesting. The rabbi at my temple knows that I love theater and I'm interested in that. And she sent an email asking if I would read a story that would be pre-recorded for our Kol Nidre Zoom service. And it was a story on Avinu Malkeinu. And she emailed me the story, and it was a modern rendition of it. She's a great writer, our Rabbi Deborah Orenstein at Congregation B'nai Israel in Emerson. And she wrote out a whole story about the perfect king and his son and the relationship and what happened. And in the end, I remember the message was, return to me and I will return to you. And we recorded that, and then the night of Kol Nidre, I had my family at the kitchen table. I made chicken and potatoes and had everything set out on the table, and I had the prayer books because they gave us prayer books in advance, and I plopped my Chromebook in the middle of the table for services. And we had our dinner, and then we watched and listened to services. And it's interesting because some would say, oh, that must have been not so great because it's so far away. But actually, it was just the opposite, because sometimes when you go to temple on the holidays, I'm in, row Z all the way in the back, so you can barely see everybody speaking on the bima, and you're trying to look and you're listening because you're sometimes magnified, and the temple, they open up the back room and the dividers and the whole place is filled. And I felt like I was right there with the rabbi and cantor, because they were actually in the synagogue doing it live.
Wow.
So, with just them and the camera person. So I felt like I was sitting right there with them. And I found it so beautiful. And so did my daughter, who was sitting with me, that we just sat there watching and listening. And then they would cut to my reading and cut to somebody else reading. And it was really special. I found it much more special than I thought it would be, on Zoom. I thought, oh, how good is it going to be? It's not the same as being there, but it kind of was. It was being there. And I even felt it was more intimate in some ways, because I could see the cantor when he was singing, and I could see the rabbi's facial expressions more when she was reading. And I loved it. I really loved it. I mean, would I rather be there in person? Of course, everybody would rather be there in person, but it was really special. And it's funny, my daughters and I always talk about my trip to Israel. They know that I talk about my trip to Israel. And when you were talking about food before, I said to my daughter, what is one of the things you think that I've brought back into the house from my trip to Israel? And she said, food, Mom, food. Because in the house, we have the za'atar spice. We have the shawarma spice. I have a cranberry spice I got at Cedar Market that I use on my chicken all the time. And so I feel like, to me, food is family. Food is a sense of community. And I feel like I gave that to my girls. And that has inspired them just about Israel and learning about the holidays and knowing that food is associated with the holidays. So to me, that's special. And that's kind of what I wanted to share.
Oh, thank you. And you know what? I think it's awesome that you mentioned Avinu Malkeinu, because Avinu Malkeinu is, first of all, besides what the prayers actually mean, I want to talk about just for a second the title of that prayer. My Father, our King. That really sums up the relationship that we have with God. That it's this loving relationship, our Father, but yet also it's that King that sometimes we don't always get the connection. We don't really understand the connection. It doesn't always seem as loving, but when it's our Father, we feel the love a lot more. And I think that's just the duality that we have with God and our connection with him. And it's so amazing that was your actual a story that you had to give over on the Zoom. And I love the fact that you had mentioned that, oh my gosh, not only was it not what you expected, but it might've been even a better experience because it seemed more intimate and more personal. And I just love that. And thank you so much, Margie, for sharing that. It really means a lot, because you took, again, something that could have been negative, you spun it, and it became super positive. So thank you so much. Thank you, Margie.
My pleasure. Thank you for asking.
Oh, thank you for saying yes. Okay, so on to Gabriella. Gabriella, we're going to go back to Gabriella. Has some little pointers and tidbits. We have a screen. Can we just show that slide? I know it's the last slide. I'm sorry. It should be the last slide. Well, if you could skip to the last slide. I'm so sorry. We put it out of order because I didn't realize. Okay, I'm sorry about that. See, some COVID Kugel. See, I did that COVID Kugel ideas. She's going to talk about these individual Kugel muffins you could do, social distance kiddish, entertaining with Kugel. So take it away, Gabriella.
Okay. So Kugel's amazing for entertaining all the time because it freezes really well. So as long as it goes in a plastic bag with no air in it, you can cook your Kugels on Monday. You can cook them 3 weeks ahead. They're going to stay for 6 weeks. You can cook big batches. You just freeze them flat. But then how do you take it out? Like sometimes Kugel gets like dry, it's overcooked, especially if you're like warming something up on a hot plate for Shabbos. So if you make them if you make them in like the individual tins with the paper in them, Then you take it out and it stays thick and it doesn't get dried out. Then you freeze them in your plastic and you can take out. So if you have extra guests or suddenly like you had to work late and you have to make Shabbos, you can take out exactly as many as you need without having to reheat a whole big kugel and having it get dry. So during COVID, we've been davening. We've had our prayer services outdoors, and my son got married. And thank you. So, and for the Shabbos, the week before, he was called to the Torah. So we had that in our backyard. It was so beautiful. People came, they brought a Torah, the men had a minyan, and I wanted to do a kiddush, and we could not do a kiddush because of social distancing and being outdoors. So we had all of these individual kugels, and we did apple, and we did noodle, and we did potato, and little tarts, and then froze them. And then I got little bags, really cute, and other bags, put them in baskets with a little chalkboard label, and then people could take without having to touch. You know, they say it's not safe to have an open buffet these days.
Right.
So if you have it in a bag, people can take without touching other people's food, and they're having like a real meal. They're having something.
1 second. Someone had asked a question in the chat. I don't want to forget them. They wanted to know if they could use peaches instead of apricots, if they could use frozen or fresh instead of the dried apricots. Anything that they need to know?
Yes. So you can do all apple. Instead, if you're watching your fat, instead of oil, you can use applesauce.
Okay.
And you use applesauce instead of the oil. You can use apples and make an apple kugel. Now you can switch it and make it with the noodles, the Lakshan, and make an apple Lakshan kugel. Or you can use flour and applesauce and apple and make it, it's sweet. It's between a cake and a kugel. Or if you want to go the other way and use a squash, this is so great. You can make kugels with almost anything. So for events, I've done them with big zucchinis, especially like at the end of the summer, you can get these huge zucchinis from the farmer's market. So if you want to serve a lot of people without a lot of money, you get one of these big zucchinis and you whir it up in your food processor, and then you mix it in grated. You can also do it grated with carrots, or you can do something mashed, like a butternut squash, which can be mashed, or a sweet potato. And then you can mix it up. So like you can use sweet potato as your starch and add a little bit of flour and baking powder. I like the baking powder because the baking powder helps any of your kugels rise.
Oh, okay.
So you would use like a squash, and then you could then add your peaches, which you can use frozen. I keep a big box of frozen peaches that I buy in bulk in the freezer, so I can take them out. I dice them up while they're still frozen, and I mix it in. And then that way it keeps it from getting too mushy. So somebody just put in broccoli kugel, love broccoli kugel. Yeah. Now for my broccoli kugel, it's the one time I do use a non-dairy creamer. I try not to use too much non-dairy creamer. I'm not so sure all the sugars like terrific. But with yes, I can add more of these recipes. Okay. With the broccoli kugel, I think it really helps to have some non-dairy creamer in it.
You were talking about freezing, and you were talking about your simcha, the party that you had, how you had it individually wrapped. That was great. What else any other tidbits? And then you could show us the finish.
So the other is that it means that if you put it in the small item, let's say you're having a lot of people, let's say social distancing is over and you can go back to having 30 people at your meal. Okay. You can make them on platters, sort of family style, or you can put each one on a plate, and you're not sitting there cutting it up and it getting all dry and fussing with it. So it's just, but then it changes the consistency depending on the pan. So like in order for it to freeze well without overusing it, I like using these smaller pans, which is, so you can make 2 of these for one kugel recipe, or you can use a bundt pan as long as you get it nice and thick. And then it's so pretty. You spray it, and then you flip the kugel over, and then you slice it up. And then if you're using a sweet kugel, you can add some fruit and some whipped topping It's really like, this is like the mainstay food item. Like if
Like
you have
man,
Kugels,
like you said, it's just like the man. Man could be like anything. A
right,
Kugel.
exactly.
Very good, very good. Do you have a finished product to show us, Gabriella?
I do, amazingly. So this is what the sweet Kugels look like in the individual. Aren't they pretty? Right?
Yes, very pretty.
And I made these not so sweet, remember? So if you want, you can add like a cream or a vegetable, or you can make it sweet and add a fruit. So you can serve it as appetizer or main dish or soup. Or dessert. I don't think it's so good pureed. And then this is like, let me know if you like this. This was me recreating a recipe from my childhood. So I hope my mom likes it. Isn't it pretty? Right?
Yes.
And the thing is that it's thick. I think that one of the reasons why Kugels go back wrong is that people use too big of a pan. Use smaller pan and try to get it taller, and then it's going to be a lot softer, no matter what size you do.
Gabriella, we're going to go to our next.
So nice. Thank you so much for having me.
We're going to go to our next words of inspiration. We're looking for Lauren Moss. Lauren. Hi, Lauren. How are you? Wait, she's muted. Wait, everybody. We got to get her off mute and then get those
I'm not
slides.
muted
Ready. Not
anymore.
yet, everybody. Hi, Lauren. You want to tell everybody where you're from?
Sure. I'm from Rockville Center, Long Island.
Hi. And give us a little background, your connection a little bit to Project Inspire. You guys, you're going to be interested in this one. Let me tell you. Let me hear it, Lauren.
Okay, wait. Ask me again. What was that?
Your connection to Project Inspire,
Okay,
how
sure.
you get involved.
So my connection to Project Inspire, I've been involved for a very long time. My husband was one of the original men that went on the first men's trip, and he went before me. And he became extremely inspired and encouraged me to then go on a trip. So it's kind of unusual because he sort of inspired me, and he was always a step ahead of me, and he continues to always be a step ahead of me. I've been on the couples trip. We went on the original couples mission together with some of our friends, and I've been on multiple trips as well, second level, and so on.
Oh, amazing. And what do you do for a living? Because this is going to be important very soon when we show some pictures. What do you do for a living?
So I'm an interior designer. I do a lot of residential projects. I've done some commercial projects as well. And yeah, so I work all over. I'm all over the place.
Okay, great. So can you share with us, how is this holiday experience a little bit different this year than it was other years for you?
Okay, well, first of all, this is the first year that we actually built our own sukkah.
Unbelievable.
Every year we have always been invited to some beautiful sukkahs. Just to mention a few people, Dina Levy's had us at her house, which has always been magical. I've been to the Brodies, and I've been to so many of them, and to even Simca and Aviva Barnett's and so on. And I've always loved the whole aspect of dining this time of year in these beautiful, beautiful booths that have such intimacy, and with friends and family and so on. And I've always enjoyed it. And this year with COVID, and being that we've, really had to be, if we want to socialize with anybody, we have to be outdoors and so on, whatever. It really seemed like it was the perfect time. And I've always said to my husband, I want a sukkah. I'm always coming back so inspired. And this year, I said, this is it. We've got to do it now. So we built our own sukkah this year. And we had a few bumps along the way. And Simca Barnett helped us out a lot with getting it kosher and making sure that we followed all of the rules in building it and so on. And I have to say, it was one of the most amazing things we've ever done. We had family, we had a couple of friends, we kept it very small, but we really enjoyed being outside. And I have to be honest, I've never experienced my backyard this time of year ever. Usually by the end of summer, we're eating indoors and we're doing our Shabbos and we're doing everything inside. This was the first time that I've ever been in my garden in the back this time of year. And I cannot tell you what the noises, the sounds, the birds, the crickets, everything. It was just a magical, absolutely magical experience.
You know, you got lucky. You got good weather this year.
Yeah,
God
really good.
was on your side,
Really
because
good.
some years you could be like freezing in that sukkah, and you could be like, "Where's my soup?" And everyone's sitting in with their winter coats. And some years you could be dying of heat, and there are bugs all around you. So really, God was so kind to everybody in North America, in the tri-state area, who put up their sukkahs for the very first time. We have pictures of your sukkah. We're going to show them right now. Could we put up on the slide? Look at the beautiful sukkah. Look at what she did as interior designer. Look, she made this beautiful sukkah. Look how beautiful it is inside. That's one picture. We have, isn't that stunning? Look at the color sequence. Look what they did. This is the first time ever that they had a sukkah. Unbelievable. And then there's another picture. That's their son with her husband saying the prayers on the special spices for the holiday of Sukkot. That is the lulav that you see. And in the other hand, he's holding the special fruit called the etrog. Really, the citron fruit, really so special, Lauren. Such a special moment.
Well,
I want to thank you.
I want to also mention that, you know, we never really, we weren't really observing Shabbos every Friday. You know, we tried our best, but we both worked full time and so on. We would light the candles, say the blessing and so on. But I can't say that we were really following every Friday. But since COVID and through this like very trying time, we have our son with us, and we've been able to really embrace Shabbos every Friday. And I bake my own challahs, and I pass them out to my friends, and I drop them off with the prayers and extra Shabbos candles if they've never done it before. But it's been really wonderful, and to be able to extend a little further from Shabbos and be able to embrace Sukkot and all of the holidays that followed was just really magical and really special for my family. And it was the first time my husband and my son really spent some quality time together, building something together that was so special that we could all enjoy as a family.
That's true. You know, I never thought of that. I also have kids, and I'm always looking for projects for them to do, to build. And I never even put that together. Very smart, Lauren. When the children are building this this sukkah together, they're accomplishing something together as a family unit. In my house, we always have the boys build it, and then my daughter comes in, because that's how I was raised. She decorates it and puts her little, flavor in, because that's what I always did when I was younger. So it's really amazing. I want to thank you so much for sharing. And I also want to point out how Lauren had mentioned that she went on the coattails of her husband. A lot of times on this show, we hear the woman being the strong force. And it's okay. You don't always have to be the strong force. You got a husband, and the husband could be the strong force, and you could follow his lead, or he could follow your lead, which is going to lead us into very much our next words of inspiration from Paulina, because Paulina is the other way. Paulina was inspired. She's going to tell us a little bit about herself. She was inspired and then brought it to her home. So Paulina, can you tell everybody, where are you from originally?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me, Jordana. I'm originally from the former USSR. I immigrated with my parents in the 80s. I was 10 years old. I grew up completely not observant at all. Fast forward, my husband is also that wave of immigration from USSR. And fast forward, we both went on the JWRP, J-inspired trips. I went first and he followed right after me. And we're on a journey of growing. And I actually have exactly very similar story to Lauren. And I want to say that, you know, COVID is kind of like a blessing in disguise. And it gave us an opportunity to really take off with our Shabbos and, the preparations. And we just celebrated the holiday of Sukkot. We also built our first sukkah this year. We usually go away during the holiday of Sukkot because we kind of just want to be done with the Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and we just want to go away because the kids have a break in school. And so, due to COVID, we weren't able to go anywhere. And this was the best time for us to build our first sukkah. And, I really connected with this holiday because as I'm learning and growing, I know that when our ancestors traveled through the desert, Hashem put like a cloud over them and sustained them in a time of uncertainty, because when they were traveling through the desert, like somebody else said before, that nobody knew like what another day will bring and how long we'll be traveling. Is it 40 years? Is it 6 years? Will we ever get there? And today is like falls exactly to the time where we all live in an uncertain time, where we don't know what's going to happen with the COVID and the election, and everything is like up in the air, And Sukkot gave me such a connection to Hashem and to Emunah, to know that during Sukkot, Hashem gives us like a hug, and when we sit in the sukkah, we're like sitting inside the hug of Hashem. And this was an amazing holiday. I love the decorating with my kids, and I also invited my whole family and all my friends who are non-observant at all into the sukkah, and also gave them an opportunity to partake in the mitzvah. And this became my favorite holiday. I love it.
Yes. It's so amazing. It's so amazing. And how many kids do you have, Paulina?
I have 2 boys.
Wow. And how'd they enjoy the sukkah?
They loved it. They always through our journey, we moved from Brooklyn to Long Island, Woodmere. We live here now for 3 years. And we've been also sukkah hopping, when we were here during the holiday, the first few days. And I really loved being in other people's sukkah. And I would always think I can't wait, one day I'll have my own sukkah to decorate and to have people over and to share in the mitzvah.
Wow, it's unbelievable. Thank you so much, Paulina.
Thank you.
If I could just recap everything that people were saying here tonight on the show. I don't know how somebody could come out of the show and not be blown away, whether, of course, Gabriella, your recipes and your connections, but each person that shared is what words of inspiration, whether we're talking about Amalia, that was awesome, all the way from California. I so appreciate you joining us. And we had Rhonda. She herself was inspirational, keeping everyone in her community, her friends together during the times of COVID. We had Margie performing for the Kol Nidre Yom Kippur performance, that she's never experienced that before, being really a part of it, even though it's COVID time. And we had Lauren and Paulina both building their very first Sukkot. And if I could just say something that is unbelievable, that things that people are mentioning, you were talking about a hug. Gabriella was talking about the man. We're talking about that the Sukkah represents God's cloud. And I once heard this beautiful, beautiful thought. And you should know, I've been teaching for many years, and I consider myself pretty learned. And from time to time, when I read something, and I'll be like, boom, why didn't I think of that before? And this was from a rabbi. His name is Rabbi Pincus. He's no longer alive. And he talks about what was the purpose of this cloud in the desert. Okay. Every time God represents himself, he represents himself as this cloud. As Paulina was saying, this cloud hovers over, this cloud hugs me. This cloud let us know when to travel, when not to travel. So the same thing with that time of uncertainty. When they were in the desert for 40 years, they had this sense of uncertainty, just like we have a little bit right now. What's going to be tomorrow? My students ask me, Mara Baruchov, are we going on our 8th grade trip? And I'm like, I don't know. Who knew last year that you weren't going to go on it? I said, everything could change in an instant. I think that's one thing that we learned, that everything is instantaneous, different. And that's really what was going on in the desert with the cloud. The cloud represented something that was instantaneous, but even more than that. This is the beautiful thought from Rav Pincus. Ready for this? Because it's going to blow you away, because I know it will, because it blew me away. When we talk about poetry and we talk about what, let's say, a rainy day represents, or what the sun represents, when we talk about this really gloomy day, a cloudy day. Right? It's gloomy, it's sad. There are clouds, right? What does it look like outside? You know, I asked my daughter, what should I wear? What is the weather outside? Is it cloudy? Is it clear skies? When it's cloudy, when there are clouds, it's gloomy. And what God is telling us, he's always there in the cloud. He's always there in our time of gloom and sadness. He's there. He's there to protect us. He's there, as Paulina said, to give us that hug. He's there in our time of COVID. He's in that cloud. He always is represented by a cloud because no matter what, he's there. He's got us. He's going to carry us through. And it's not that our problems are going to be removed, but he's there with us to get us through the problems. At the end of the day, he's there. At the end of the day, we had people building sukkahs for the very first time where we would have thought something would have been something negative. As Amalia said, negative experiences that were flipped around and turned into something positive. We had Margie, who she mentioned all the way she'd be in the back row maybe, and not being able to see the cantor, to see the rabbi, but yet now she had an intimate experience that she would not have ever had, this intimate Yom Kippur experience. It is just unbelievable. What great women we have here on the show. I hope everybody's been inspired. I hope everyone got a lot of it besides just cooking, besides just learning about the kugel, how diverse the kugel could be, just like the man, could taste like however we wanted it to be. And that we all really understand that God is that cloud. God was in the holidays for all of us. He was there. It was unbelievable. And I just want to thank everyone for joining tonight. It really means a lot to me when I see everybody, when I see people from all walks of life. If you want to say hello in the chat, I could say hello because we didn't really have an opportunity earlier when we started. You want to give a shout out from where you are, please do so. And again, if you want those recipes, the recipes were posted in the chat, but if you don't get them, you could definitely email Project Inspire. They'll send them to you. This is awesome. You want to see a recap of any of our other shows, feel free, because I know somebody came on and thought that this was the dip show. You go to the Project Inspire YouTube channel. You can see all the other previous shows. We have another show coming up next week. We're so excited. You have the Shabbat show Thursday nights. It is unbelievable what Project Inspire is doing. And I want to just thank everybody. I see we got Suffren in the house. Where else do we have here? We got someone from JWP in 2012. Anyone else want me to tell me where you're from? Baltimore. There we go. We got Baltimore. We got Boca. We got Florida in the house. Minneapolis. Is this not awesome, everybody? Look at us. Look how
California.
Together. You could take the spotlight off of me. Let's see more people.
Fairlawn, New Jersey.
Okay, we got Jerusalem, DC. We got California. You got Phoenix. You could. Hi. This. We got New Jersey.
Toronto.
Maryland.
Toronto. Toronto.
Westchester. We got Upper West Side, Manhattan. People are still in Manhattan. I thought they cleared it out. Wow, this is great. I've got Highland Park. Very nice. Thank you. I'm glad you liked the show. I'm glad you thought.
Loveland, Ohio.
Oh, hi, from Ohio, Cleveland.
Yep.
Are you in Cleveland?
No, Loveland.
Okay,
It's outside of Cincinnati.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, because my son is in school in Cleveland, so I got.
That's okay. Thank you for this wonderful show.
Oh,
wonderful.
Thank you for joining. Thank you. We got another Fairlawn. That's great. Oh my gosh, this is so nice. Thank you guys for saying hi. I so appreciate it. Thank you for putting the questions out there. Thank you, Margie. Thank you. The questions are helpful. You know, we were able to ask the cook all the different questions. I think the cook did a great job. Thank you, Gabriella. That was awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Project Inspire, you're more than welcome. We could say goodnight to everybody. I think that's fine.
Okay, bye, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye. Stay safe. Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.